So, in a further move to essentially lay the boot, shall we say, more into George Galloway, I forgot to mention on Saturday morning's on live stream that we did that George Galloway had made a very interesting bet. And that was that if Labour didn't come third, he would eat his somewhat famous hat. And to be honest, we're still waiting on that, George. So I'm still waiting for your hat video. And I think that we should take this opportunity to go to Twitter to remind George of his claim to eat said hat. But more worryingly was George Galloway's claim that election fraud was somehow involved in Labour winning and him ultimately losing. And of course, this should be taken very, very seriously. But not the fact that George Galloway, shall we say, has made the claim of this voter fraud, because again, he's got no proof of voter fraud happening. Again, it's very, very Trumpian move, shall we say, of him to make such an accusation. He's just doing it because, again, he wants more attention. And apparently he's going to go take this to court to try and overturn said decision. Ultimately, this isn't going to work. He's going to get laughed at because, again, he's an absolute grifter. Like I say, this is all just part to further his Russia Today, programming. Like I say, we will cover George Galloway. I think we're going to have to cover George Galloway on one of our Wednesday live streams sooner or later. So, with that said, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And also down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And on with, shall we say, more of the boot to George Galloway. So, this comes from The Guardian, and the title is, George Galloway just doesn't sow division, he sprays it everywhere. The three most prominent hat-wearing guys in public life are George Galloway, weirdo autonomist Goethe von Hangs, and the rapist who used to own Blackpool Football Club. Sorry, but case closed. Hang on, Bono once sued a former U2 stylist all the way to the High Court for the return of a hat, and that is true, by the way. Though, of course, there's nothing there to make one reopen the case files either. Although I have to say, come on. Surely you make an exception for me. Anyway, shortly after 5 a.m. this morning, George Galloway's hat could be found outside the Batley and Spen by-election count, bobbing along on top of a speech of quite hilarious self-pity. This was, quote, peak Kirk Lees, intoned in the wearer that the sonorous voice which always implies he's reading the last rites of democracy itself, and opposed to say something for some shirt of his coins for Putin TV. Not enough chairs for people to sit on, not even a coffee at 4 a.m. Oh mate, wah. I think we can safely say that Donald Trump is getting a shock today when he looks into his magic mirror and inquires of it, who is the biggest man baby of all? And honestly, too pathetic to tell at this point, you'd never catch a cat pretending to be George Galloway. So, to the Batley and Spen by-election, which we saw a narrow Labour win despite Galloway picking up more than 8,000 votes in a campaign that you needed a hazmat suit just to read about. This time around, Galloway was fronting something called the Workers' Party of Britain. But he's previously been the lead singer for Respect, a Labour MP, an independent candidate, and endorsed Nigel Farage back in 2019. Let's face it, he likes nasty elections, and also nasty dictators, so don't make him pick. The carpetbagger Galloway has a capacity that is almost belongs to Mary Poppins, though sadly not the contents. He carries only bottomless malevolence. While she was famously able to produce a hat stand from hers, ironically George Galloway would have found that quite useful. Every time he turns up, it's as if he's answered some sort of invisible, I can't say that on here, some invisible bat signal. I don't really care for that phrase, sowing division, as far as Galloway is concerned, and sowing implies a sort of precision to the planting, In fact, Galloway just sprays division around like some psychotic rogue who couldn't be bothered to find the urinal. As for Pete Galloway, we will never reach it. His odious and potentially Hemlian many foolish assumed the heights had been reached on Celebrity Big Brother, while Runa Liska petted him and wiped away imaginary milk off his tash and said stuff like, pussy, 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 it's okay. Incredible, really, that the man who once did this on national TV is making waves anywhere other than his own bath. But perhaps the UK is not the country overburdened by self-respect. Take Nadine Dorries, a woman who once simply observed herself from Parliament to her obligations to her constituents in order to chase fame on I'm a Celebrity, and failed even to declare her fee for huffing, for eating an ostrich anus and kangaroo testicles. For an entire era-defying pandemic thus far, this woman has also been the health minister. Back onto Galloway, though. Some will remember his excruciatingly repulsive attacks in Bradford West back in 2015, during which he accused Labour candidate Naz Shah of lying about her forced marriage at age 15. And according to Galloway, the giant lie was she was in fact 16, and he produced her Islamic marriage certificate at her hustings, saying having instructed a representative in Pakistan to obtain it. Shah claimed this representative have impersonated her dead father. This was denied, and then Shah showed The Guardian a second one, which backed up her earlier date and eventually won the seat from Galloway. But by that time, it what surely felt like the Pete Galloway, the coercion, some old white guy telling a British Pakistani woman that she was wrong about her own teenage forced marriage and abusive marriage, and was accusing her of racist slander. Shah was one of Labour's big key campaign architects in Batley and Spen, and she reportedly was forced to call the police over allegations of intimidation by Galloway supporters. I'm imagining seeing him again feels very satisfying, but I doubt he'll be repeating on her, on all of us again anytime soon. As for his own marital status, I've lost count of what wife Galloway is on now. He reminds me of a former football writer who used to get a new one every World Cup. But I did momentarily tune into George's live stream earlier to hear him shouting something about his baby, and I wondered how, having visited his personal life section on Wikipedia page, almost good as Nick Faldo's, and very similar in its way, I note that Galloway was recently welcomed his 6th child. Lovely to see this chap getting on, of course, and has Ken Livingstone had any more recently? The other thing George Galloway was ranting about this morning is how as soon as the lawyers woke up, he was going to take legal action against the result. Then again, when isn't he taking legal action? He sues like an ostrich. Richard Desmond, and there are few more committed to the hideous bourgeois activity of litigating than Galloway, and no doubt he will find something to hook into his column of defence, which we will take up to far too much time over the next few weeks. I'm preemptively already laying my towel over half of the correction columns just in case. If half of his own pronouncements were held to such rigorous account in any recent interview with Owen Jones, Galloway confided, "I'll eat my hat if Labour are not third, in which case, on what on earth is he waiting for? A silver service and a Rinny chaser. Time to keep your word, big man, and eat the hat." And I'll agree with that 100%. Time for Galloway to go and eat his hat, because this is a man who is, again, well and truly beyond the pale, and quite frankly, should generally be banished from British politics. And it's generally quite shocking that he actually managed to get so many votes. But again, like I say, he didn't win, which was good, because again, quite frankly, having him in Parliament would be an embarrassment, even worse. And quite frankly, he's not going to go anywhere. He's just doing this, again, just to get attention. And technically, yes, I am giving him attention. But to be honest, I think sometimes you've got to give these people attention, but not too much attention. just to, lay the boot in and remind people just how onerous of a man he really is. So, with that said, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.